Hey folks, it seems like I'm a bit late to the party, is what I would be saying if there had been a party. I just got out of Transformers 1. Apologies on my voice. I'm just coming off of being quite ill, so things sound a little bit off. I say that as though my voice doesn't already sound quite weird. But the question of the hour: is Transformers 1 a movie worth seeing? And better yet, is it a movie worth seeing in theaters? I was a bit skeptical about this movie upon seeing the first couple of trailers because they didn't make it look very good, and they didn't make it look like it was going to have anything particularly interesting for me to chew on. And I know I don't have any memorabilia in the background here, but if you've seen this channel before, you know that I like Transformers, right? It's something that comes up every once in a while. I was kind of expecting to just see this when it came out on streaming and ultimately walk away from it feeling like, yeah, it was just another middling Transformers movie, the way that I felt after Rise of the Beasts. And then it came out, and I pretty much forgot it existed, and then here we are, a few weeks later, and there's been some buzz on the Twitters as of late, which, I mean, this is about the only good thing that you can get out of Twitter. You know, one Twitter account in particular has really been putting in the legwork, so shout out to the, I think it's TF Hype Man. I forgot, I can just check. TF Hype Guy has really been putting in the legwork when it comes to marketing this movie, certainly more than Paramount did. If that's all you were wondering, yes, if you have any sort of interest in kind of epic science fantasy stuff for a younger audience, you should definitely check this movie out. I think it's quite good. If you like Transformers, I think there are certain things that are going to register better for you in this movie, and if you don't know jack about Transformers, I think that there are a few things that will register better for you, which is both a positive and a negative. It's nice for, you know, younger fans who maybe aren't really familiar with the relationship between a lot of these characters to see it unfold in real time, because, you know, normally the relationship between Optimus Prime and Megatron is something you hear about retrospectively, but I think this movie does a good job of taking you through that journey. But if you already know everything there is to know about these two characters' relationships, I think there are moments that don't hit as hard than if you you didn't see it coming. Anyhow, let's get into just kind of a brief little vague spoilery talk. I'm not really going to give you some super crazy plot details and how they get resolved, but I do kind of want to talk about some of the moments in this movie. This is a rambling, you think I scripted this? Absolutely not. Well, I feel like I should probably talk about our lead cast, of which I think the weakest two are definitely Bumblebee and Alita 1, Scarlett Johansson and Keegan-Michael Key, not respectively, which is both a good and a bad thing. On the one hand, it's good that the two weakest lead cast members are not, you know, Megatron and Optimus Prime. That would suck. But on the other hand, I definitely think there are a lot of scenes where the two of them sort of drag things down in different ways. Alita 1 in general, I think that just the way that Scarlett Johansson portrays the character doesn't feel very emotive. And I guess the problem that I have with that is that it doesn't register in the same way as a lot of the other characters. It's clear that they were directed to be a little bit robotic across the board. I think you see that in pretty much every character's voice acting, except oddly Shockwave and Soundwave. They sound the least robotic, which... okay, they're not major characters, but that is a little bit bizarre, admittedly. But for whatever reason, for the most part, in most scenes, I think Scarlett Johansson's performance doesn't really serve as well as I think a lot of the other ones do. She definitely has some good quiet moments, and I think pretty much every character in their quiet moments does really well. And that includes Bumblebee, who's very much here as a comic relief character, but, you know, has a couple of scenes where I think you do genuinely get to see his underlying character shine. But I think that he needed something more to really feel like he was justified in being included in this film and as being some sort of a close friend of our main characters, because I never really felt like he became someone that anyone in this main, you know, cast and crew would especially uniquely care about. And so it makes some of the moments towards the end where, you know, they express like their friendship to each other ring a little bit hollow, because I'm like, do you really give a shit about this guy? Does he matter that much to you? And I mean, admittedly, this is very much a kid's movie. I know a lot of adults feel a little bit apprehensive about the fact that they like a lot of kids' movies. This is very much that. There are going to be moments that the dialogue is a bit clunky because it's trying to hammer down the same information a few times to really get it to click with, I think, younger audiences. Which, on the one hand, I think is a little bit frustrating because I think that, you know, it talks down to its audience a little bit, and I think kids are a bit smarter than it's probably treating them. That said, I think that it ends up working a little bit in the film's favor when you get into later scenes in the movie where they do play things a little bit more subtle, where a lot of the character changes and emotions and stuff are really delivered in the face, which was something that you would not expect to say about an animated Transformers film. But there were some moments here where I genuinely like face acting, animation worked really well and helped to sell things that would have been really obnoxious if it was just played out in dialogue entirely. One of the things I've never really been sold on in Transformers media is the way that they try to skirt around swearing for a younger audience, and I'm primarily very obviously talking about Transformers Prime, which is a show that I watched a few years ago and was for the most part pretty good, but it always rings very hollow when the characters are yelling things like scrap, because they can't say crap because it's not a Disney Channel show, but whatever that was from, whatever channel that was on. But I think this movie did it fine. Like, it didn't really take me out of the moment because for the most part they just used mild swears and didn't try to come up with like unique, fun sci-fi swear words that I missed a couple scenes, but like it didn't do that, and so I appreciated it. I don't like when kids movies do that, and I especially don't like it when Transformers movies do that, with the exception of one what I thought was probably my favorite gag in the movie, and it was just like a throwaway bit, where they used GoBot as an insult. And I don't know if that's been done before in something Transformers, maybe it has, but I thought that was really funny. And I thought that was a good way to like give us a franchise specific swear word that is not obnoxious. Of the two main characters, I think that Megatron probably has the stronger character arc. You see a lot of the subtle differences between him and Orion Pax pretty early on in the movie, and if you were not familiar with these characters at all, they would probably just kind of seem like, two different buddies' personalities, but you can sort of see as the film develops the ways in which those, his slightly more aggressive tendencies would lead to him becoming a much more aggressive and violent character, which is not really a major spoiler because it was spoiled by the posters and also all of Transformers media since the dawn of time. Whereas I think that Orion Pax / Optimus Prime's arc is a little bit weaker because I don't think that we got as many really strong character moments from him before the end of the movie, which is not to say that he didn't get anything. Like, it was a believable arc, but I would have definitely loved to see more in the way of him not just reacting to some of the bad things that Megatron is doing, which I think we're all perfectly good, serviceable scenes, but also him doing things in contrary to the things that Megatron is doing, showing his way and the reason why it's better, right? That said, they definitely sell the friendship relationship between the two, and it does make it genuinely sad when they inevitably have their little, Professor X Magneto breakup towards the end of the movie. A couple of quick notes. There were some really, really pretty sequences in this movie, but I think my favorite visual effect definitely had to be with Megatron's eyes later in the movie. I don't really want to spoil the specifics of what it is, but I think it really did sell the character's kind of transformation. Transformation. But it definitely really sold how different he is by the end of the movie compared to the beginning. This is rambling. I don't know why I'm trying to make these things sound coherent, because they're not going to, even when I edit this down. The first transformation sequence is kind of dumb. I didn't really like it very much, and it didn't feel like it serviced the plot very well, both as a comedy and as a sincere, serious plot development. I don't think it needed to be there. I think that just having the characters, this was in the trailers, having the characters just transform fine first time, maybe, have slight hiccups or whatever, would have been perfectly fine. And I don't really think that the way that they did it did anything for me. And I don't remember any of the kids in the theater laughing at most of that, because it wasn't especially funny. Like I said, a lot of the characters were very robotic in their performance, and I think probably the weakest one for me was Alpha Trion. He wasn't super prevalent throughout the whole movie, but I don't know, I just didn't find his lines as convincing as I think that they were meant to be. That said, he was fine. I'm not a huge Quintessons fan either, and they're not like a major presence in this film, but I didn't particularly like the design of those characters. In general, I think that the designs in this movie are definitely one of its kind of weaker aspects. They all look good, but Cybertronian Transformers designs will never be as good as Earth Transformers designs because it's the recognizability of all of the different components that I think sells them as transforming robots, and you just don't get that when when Optimus Prime is transforming into this sort of vaguely semi-truck looking vehicle that is very much not of Earth. The window chests, the Windows chest, right? Like that's the iconic Optimus Prime thing, and you don't get that in a lot of non-Earth designs. The best Cybertronian Transformers designs are the ones that just bite the bullet and basically go with the Earth appearance with a few little like alien touches to them. But as I said, they service the movie fine. They look pretty good, and there were a couple of changes in Optimus's design that I thought were really cool throughout, because the characters kind of undergo multiple changes in their physical appearance throughout the movie, and there was one really obvious thing that I focused in on at the very beginning, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a consistent visual change in the character, and then it ended up being that, and I thought it was pretty cool, and I thought it was a cool way of visualizing his sort of coming into his own and becoming the person that he's supposed to be. And I think I think that really worked. I liked some of the changes that they actually underwent, and their designs in general looked better throughout the movie as it went on. Okay, I feel like I mostly ran out of things to talk about, except for one of the things that I was sort of skeptical of going into this was the way that they were going to incorporate a lot of recognizable characters, because you can kind of go a few different ways with this. You can either have them already kind of all know each other, which can be a little bit unbelievable throughout the entire story, because it's like, okay, you've known Starscream and Shockwave and Soundwave and Jazz and Bumblebee and all of these people like your entire life, and all of you just happen to be the most important people in world history or whatever. So it didn't go that route, which is cool. But the alternative, right, is meeting all of these different characters, and that can work, but you kind of have to be careful with it, because you don't want it to feel like you're suddenly introducing this person that already knows that they're really important to the plot, because then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this guy, like, he just knows he's a named character, right? The hand of the author is reaching in and like placing, I don't know, Starscream in front of you. And overall, I think they did a good job of actually avoiding that, which if I'm explaining myself well, maybe makes sense. And if I'm not explaining myself well, probably doesn't, because if you've seen the movie, you might think that that's like, it does exactly the thing I'm complaining about here, but I don't think it does, both because a lot of the different characters throughout, Transformers history come from a wide variety of locations and backgrounds, and also, I think that they have an accurate assessment of their importance to the story, and the film treats them with an accurate assessment of their importance thus far. Nobody feels like they're just suddenly like forced in because they're a popular character and nothing else. Although, again, it was really weird to me that the most emotive characters were Shockwave and Soundwave. That said, I do think that Shockwave got like the one of like two good Bumblebee jokes. Because again, like most of Bumblebee's jokes really just didn't land for me. But Shockwave got like the best one, I think, personally. And yeah, with that, I don't know why you sat through this whole thing. This was a mess. I just wanted to like spread the word a little bit, I guess. 0 out of 10, no violent cliff jumper death. If you like my more insightful stuff, definitely subscribe. Stick around, whatever. If you haven't seen my more insightful stuff, you should probably go do that. And maybe you'll think it's not insightful at all, but that's life. Anyhow, thanks for you're still here. I don't know why you're still here. Thanks for being here anyway. Like and subscribe again, I guess. I will see you in the next one with hopefully a script.